Mara Bellamy woke up before sunrise, the way she always did. She lived alone in a small cottage at the edge of a quiet town called Hollow Creek. Behind her house stood a thick forest that belonged to the Ashwood Pack, a group of wolves ruled by a powerful leader known only as the Alpha King. Most people in Hollow Creek had never seen him. They only knew stories about him, and stories were easy to believe when you lived so close to the woods. Mara did not care much for stories. She cared about her small sewing shop, her 3 chickens, and the clean laundry she hung on a line behind her house every morning. She was a seamstress, and her hands were her livelihood. Every piece of clothing she owned was carefully made, carefully washed, and carefully hung to dry in the morning sun. That was why, on a Tuesday in early autumn, she noticed something was wrong. Her blue blouse was missing from the line. At first, she thought the wind had blown it away. She searched the yard, checked the bushes, and even looked under the porch. Nothing. She shrugged it off, telling herself she must have forgotten to hang it up in the first place. But 2 days later, one of her socks disappeared. Then a scarf. Then a soft gray shirt she had made just last spring. Mara was not the type of woman who scared easily, but she was the type who got annoyed quickly, and by the end of the week, she was more than annoyed. She was furious. "Someone is stealing my clothes," she muttered to her chickens one morning, hands on her hips as she stared at the empty spot on the line where her nightgown used to hang, "and I am going to find out who." That evening, instead of going to bed early like she usually did, Mara sat by her back window with a cup of tea, watching the yard. The sun sank low, painting the sky in orange and pink, and the shadows from the forest grew long across the grass. Just as the light began to fade, she saw movement near the line. A wolf. Not a small wolf, not an ordinary one. This creature was enormous, with fur the color of a moonless night and eyes that shone silver, even in the dim light. It moved quietly, almost gently, toward the clothesline. Mara held her breath as she watched it reach up, take her nightgown gently between its teeth, and turn to leave. "Hey!" she shouted, jumping to her feet so fast she knocked over her teacup. "That is mine!" The wolf froze. Its silver eyes turned toward the window, toward her, and for a moment, Mara felt something strange in her chest. It was not fear. It was something closer to surprise, as if the wolf understood exactly what she had said. Then it ran. Mara did not think. She grabbed her shawl and ran out the back door, chasing after the massive animal as it disappeared into the tree line. "Bring that back," she yelled, though she knew it was useless. Wolves did not listen to angry seamstresses. Still, she stood at the edge of the forest, breathing hard, glaring into the darkness where the creature had vanished. "This is ridiculous," she said to herself, turning back toward her cottage. "A wolf with a taste for laundry. Wonderful." The thefts continued for another week. A pair of gloves, a wool sweater, even a small handkerchief with her initials stitched into the corner. Mara stopped trying to catch the wolf directly, since chasing a forest animal in the dark had proven both pointless and a little embarrassing. Instead, she tried something different. She wrote a note. It was short, and more than a little sarcastic. She pinned it to the clothesline where her missing items usually hung. "To whichever wolf keeps stealing my clothes, please stop. I make these by hand, and they take time. If you need something to keep you warm, I am sure the forest has plenty of leaves. Sincerely, an unamused neighbor." She did not expect a response. She barely expected the note to still be there in the morning. But when she stepped outside the next day, the note was gone. In its place was a folded piece of paper, tucked neatly under a small stone so it would not blow away. Mara picked it up, her curiosity getting the better of her irritation. The handwriting was elegant, careful, almost old-fashioned. "My apologies for the trouble. It was never meant as mischief. The items will be returned. I promise you that. Please forgive the strangeness of this explanation, but it was not entirely my choice." Mara stared at the note for a long moment. A wolf that could write, or, more likely, someone who could turn into a wolf. She had heard whispers about the Ashwood Pack before, stories about shifters who lived among the trees, but she had always assumed they were exaggerated tales told to frighten children. Now, standing in her yard, holding a handwritten apology from something that stole laundry at dusk, she was not so sure. she wrote back. An explanation would be appreciated, preferably one that does not involve any more missing socks. The next morning, 3 of her missing items were neatly folded and placed on her porch step: the gray shirt, 1 glove, and the handkerchief with her initials. Beside them was another note. The rest will come soon, and so will the explanation, if you are willing to hear it in person. I will come to your door tomorrow evening, if that is agreeable to you. Mara read the note twice, unsure whether to feel relieved or nervous. Whoever this was, they were polite, careful, and clearly trying to make things right. Still, inviting a stranger to her door, especially one connected to wolves in the forest, was not something she took lightly. She decided to wait and see. Curiosity, in the end, won over caution. The next evening, just as the sun began to set, there was a knock at her door. Mara opened it, expecting almost anything except what she found. Standing on her porch was a tall man, with dark hair and striking silver eyes, the same silver she had seen glowing in the forest. He wore simple, dark clothing, and in his arms he carried the rest of her missing laundry, neatly folded into a basket. "Mara Bellamy," he said, his voice calm and steady. "My name is Cassian Vane. I believe I owe you an explanation, and an apology." Mara blinked, recognition slowly dawning on her. Cassian Vane, the alpha king of the Ashwood Pack, the very same leader the whole town whispered about but rarely saw, standing on her porch, holding her stolen socks. "You," she said slowly, "are the wolf who has been stealing my laundry." In a manner of speaking, yes. He looked almost embarrassed, an expression that seemed strange on a man who clearly held great authority. "May I come in? I promise the explanation is stranger than the theft itself." Mara stepped aside, more out of curiosity than trust, and let him into her small home. He set the basket of laundry on her table, and stood there for a moment, as if trying to decide how to begin. "I did not choose to take your things," he said finally. "Not consciously, at least. When I am in my wolf form, my instincts guide me more than my mind does, and for reasons I did not understand at first, my wolf was drawn to your scent. It felt calming, familiar, in a way that does not happen easily between wolves and humans." Mara crossed her arms, listening carefully. "So your wolf just decided to steal my clothes, because I smelled nice?" "Something like that," Cassian admitted. "Among our kind, there is a bond called a fated mate. It is rare, and it is not something we can choose or control. My wolf sensed that bond in you before I did. Taking pieces of your clothing was its way of trying to keep something of you close, even before I understood why." Mara sat down slowly in her chair, processing his words. She had heard of fated mates before, mostly in old stories told by her grandmother, tales about wolves who could sense a perfect match through scent and instinct alone. She had never believed those stories were real. Yet here was a man, an alpha king no less, standing in her kitchen and telling her that his wolf had been drawn to her in exactly that way. "That is a lot to take in," she said finally. "I understand if you need time," Cassian said gently. "I am not here to demand anything from you, Mara. I only wanted you to understand why this happened, and to return what belongs to you." He paused, then added with a small, genuine smile, "And perhaps, if you are willing, to start over, properly this time, not as a thief in the night, but as myself." Mara studied him for a long moment. He did not carry himself the way she expected a powerful leader to. There was no arrogance in his voice, no demand in his posture. He seemed patient, careful, even a little unsure of himself, which she found strangely reassuring. "I am not agreeing to anything serious," she said at last, "but I suppose a conversation would not hurt, as long as my laundry stays where it belongs." Cassian's smile widened, relief clear on his face. "That, I can promise." Over the following weeks, Cassian visited Hollow Creek often, always in his human form, always polite and respectful of Mara's boundaries. He would sit with her on the porch in the evenings, telling her about pack life, about the responsibilities of leading the Ashwood territory, and about the quiet moments he treasured away from his duties. In return, Mara told him about her sewing, about the small joys of her simple life, and about how she had built her little shop from nothing. Slowly, cautiously, something between them began to grow, Not because of instinct or fate alone, but because Mara found herself genuinely enjoying his company, the way he listened when she spoke, and the effort he made to understand her world, so different from his own. The people of Hollow Creek began to notice too. Rumors spread quickly through the small town, especially when a large, dark wolf started appearing near Mara's cottage every evening, lying calmly beneath her clothesline as if standing guard. Neighbors would peek through their curtains, whispering about the Alpha King's wolf and the seamstress who had somehow tamed him, though Mara always insisted, with a small laugh, that no one had tamed anyone. "He just likes lying under my laundry line," she told her closest friend one afternoon, shaking her head. "I have given up trying to explain it." Her friend only smiled. Maybe it is not about the laundry anymore. Mara did not have an answer to that, not yet. But when she looked out her window each evening and saw those familiar silver eyes watching over her small yard, patient and steady, she found she did not feel the same irritation she once had. Instead, there was a quiet sense of comfort, something she had not expected to feel when a wolf started stealing her socks all those weeks ago. As autumn deepened and the leaves began to fall around Hollow Creek, Mara Bellamy's clothesline became something of a local legend, not for the mysterious disappearances anymore, but for the great wolf who guarded it faithfully every night. And though she was not ready to call it fate, and certainly not ready to call it love, not yet, Mara found herself looking forward to each evening a little more than she cared to admit. The truth, once so strange and unbelievable, had settled quietly into her life, the way morning light settles over a quiet town. And for the first time since the thefts began, Mara Bellamy found herself smiling as she hung her laundry out to dry, no longer worried about what might go missing, but curious instead about what new stories the coming days might bring.